Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Vince Rocco in New York, so let's get right to what everyone is talking about. You know, every industry has its legends, the people who have paved the way, set the bar, and showed the rest of us what real estate and success really look like. In New York City real estate, these icons aren't just deal makers, they're visionaries who've shaped neighborhoods, built communities, and inspired generations of agents to think bigger. Today, we're talking about why those legends still matter, how their experience, influence, and leadership continue to drive our industry forward every single day. And with me on set today are Willkie from Brown Harris Stevens and Frederick Peters from Brown Harris Stevens. And they join me now to discuss, but first, let me welcome my listeners and my viewers from across the United States and all around the globe. This is Talking New York Real Estate, so let's go behind the headlines and inside the state of our industry.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at stephen@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we're back, and what a day this is. So, if you paid attention to my opening, we're talking about legends. We're talking about mentors. We're talking about two gentlemen here in the room with me that I'm thrilled to have today, who have been in the business for a long time, who are experienced, who show their care and their concern every day on the job with the people they work with the people they manage. And as far as I'm concerned here at Brown Harris Stevens, and you hear me say this all the time, no other place to be. Our legacy speaks for itself. But I want to talk a little bit about why folks like Frederick or Fred and Hall have, the experience they have, what they do for us on a regular basis in their own way as far as mentoring is concerned, experience is concerned, directing us agents into understanding what our business is all about. It's about people and doing good things for people, not transactional. And you hear me say that every week on the show. Hall, I do want to start with you, though, because, as I said, I've been an admirer of yours for many, many years.
Very kind of you. Yeah.
My pleasure. What makes a great leader of either a brokerage firm or of a leader of a team, or just as an agent in general? What is that characteristic that makes somebody a great leader?
Well, first of all, I think in terms of management of real estate, you have to have been an agent.
I agree.
I mean, if you haven't been an agent, I've never hired a manager that wasn't an agent.
Correct.
And I think you have to be available. I think you have to love them all the same, and be totally. I've never had a personal assistant. There's secretaries on the floor and that can help me if I need something like that, but it's just like open door. Everyone has my cell phone number. Be available, and treat people fairly, and hopefully impart some knowledge.
And what do you get back? I agree with that. But what do you feel like you get back when you do this with people? When I think you lead by example, and people know who you are. What are you getting back from a personal perspective?
It's wonderful. I mean, it's very rewarding.
Yeah,
and it's very rewarding, especially when Fred and I both have hired a lot of new people, new people in the industry, and sometimes they're very successful, and we have a lot to do with that, I think. And it's rewarding to see that growth. I think I agree with you, and I know I have an axe to grind, but Brown Harris is the best. Oh. And I love my job. And recently I gave up my corporate responsibilities, which never took more than 15% of my time, but I am focused on what I love: helping brokers sell real estate.
You will still be our leader. So, Fred, let me ask you this. Same thing as Hall. So, what inspires you to make people that you've worked with, that you've hired in the past at your own firm, now here at Brown Harris Stevens, what inspires you to get people to follow your lead because you feel your lead is inspirational and your lead is the right way to go for agents who are either new or experienced to say, hey, I can help you get to a point where you can become a really good leader. I've said many times on this program, if you want to work as an independent contractor, as a real estate agent in this world of New York City real estate, you have to be a leader. Because if you're not, how many agents are in this town? 50,000? Some ridiculous number, right? You need to stand out.
Yeah.
You need to be memorable.
Yeah.
What are your comments on leadership?
It's interesting that you say that about the number of agents, because one of the things I always have said to agents when I was running my own company was you can't count on the fact that people know you because they know at least 5 other real estate agents.
That's right.
So
Very true.
You've got to make decisions about your behavior that make you stand out. I think both Hall and I have tried to lead not only by example, but you want to lead with integrity. One of the things that has been the most distressing, honestly, for me over the arc of my career has been to see the gradual erosion of people sticking to their word where money is concerned. Somehow money has come to trump everything when it comes to making a decision.
That's
so
true.
Even if you say, okay, I'm committed to this deal at this price, somebody else appears and offers 15 grand more, and suddenly not only does the money make you go back on your word, but you expect everyone to understand that of course you're going to do that because this is about money. And so I think that I like to think of myself as an avatar of slightly more old-fashioned values which center around doing the right thing. And I believe that in the long run, that only builds your career, even if you sacrifice a deal or two along the way. And I hope that has been a primary component of my leadership.
Yeah. Mine too, that
well
thing
said.
about choosing, two or 3 or 4 things are in front of you. Choose the one that's right, and you'll never go wrong. And
The operative word there, integrity, though, correct? I mean,
you have
when
to
you
have
use
integrity.
your integrity, it's kind of like, all right, no one's going to get in the way of that.
no, you should never let something get in the way of that.
And I've had this amusing experience, which I'm sure you've had a million times also, in which people have come into my office and say, here's the situation. What should I do? And there's clearly a right thing to do and a thing that's maybe a little less right, but might make it a little easier. And I always say to them, you already know what I'm going to say.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? But I think they need to hear it.
They do
Because
need to hear it.
sometimes we need to be reassured by folks like you that say, okay, I think I have the answer, but if you tell me that I'm right, I'm going to go for it because it's going to work.
Yeah, and I think it's it being a commission business, and tempts people to not always do the right thing.
Yeah.
But if they do the right thing, they're going to get much more business over their career.
Oh,
much
my God.
more.
100%.
To grow in this business, you must be trustworthy. You must do it right. You must understand fiduciary responsibility, and
There's a word.
and that's the most key word in our industry, who we work for, and legally, it's a fiduciary responsibility, and keep that in mind. And believe me, you may not make a deal for whatever reason, but you'll make 5 more deals with that person if they trust you, if they feel you took care of them, and they understood your fiduciary responsibility.
And those who watch and listen to this show for years, the T word, okay?
Trust.
Okay?
Trust.
In this business, if you can't get that or find that in the people that you're working with, you're gonna fail all the time.
And if I can just
you can
add,
break it in so easily.
Oh my God, absolutely.
That's why.
like a reputation.
like a reputation.
Takes forever to build up and
then you
10 seconds to destroy.
Or 5.
I was just going to add on to what Hall said, that the other thing that brokers don't always think about is that it's not just about your clients or customers, it's also about fellow brokers.
Of course it is.
That
Man, I couldn't plant these comments of these guys. I mean, love your co-broker. I've been saying it for 100 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love them. And understand, it's so interesting to me, there's so many fights where brokers become then the problem rather than a problem solver.
100%.
And you need your fellow brokers as much as you need clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you learn that and you do that right, but you have to form great relationships. And so many people fight, and I'll say to them, to agents, it's not your boyfriend, not your husband, not your wife. You can't afford to get so angry. What are you talking about? This is a business. You have to find the solution.
And I like to joke with people that your client is already emotional.
Yeah.
Once you get emotional, then you've completely sacrificed your value.
Of course.
Just let them do it themselves.
That's right.
You're right. You're adding to it. Let me ask you, though. So how has the skill set to be a successful agent changed over time, or has it? I mean, there is a certain skill set that we need, but has it changed over time?
It has. I mean, the basics of the business have not changed. That it's relationships, knowledge, no longer just information, and service. But today, technology has changed it a great deal.
Yeah.
And, I think in the industry, businesses, real estate businesses are becoming more and more corporate, and they miss that personal relationship with the agents, with your customers. But the basics are the same. But you have to understand technology, and you got to understand and how to use all the tools.
Yeah, that personal, and Fred, you had that at Warburg, absolutely, and the same here at Brown Harris. The reason I left corporate is because I got tired of corporate America and that stringent kind of, crazy, walk the line behavior. I work with a family here, and I say that, lovingly because I feel that way. It's just a whole different thing. It makes me feel like I can be more me. I can be, more inspirational. I can be loving my co-broker and understanding, there's emotion all over the damn place in this business. The minute you meet somebody, it's filled with drama, right? Yeah. And every deal, I just went through a deal before it closed. It was like 3 months of nonsense to close it.
It's just crazy.
And it seems like it's getting worse. And that's why I'm asking, has the skill set really changed in agents? Is the behavior different? Why are deals necessarily taking longer to close? I think I work the same way as I always work, but to get this to the finish line, and it just finished on Friday, I'm like, whoa.
There are a lot more stumbling blocks today, too. Regulations that don't make any sense.
No.
The most recent regulations, in my opinion, do not help a seller, do not help a buyer, and don't help the broker. And so, but you have to deal with all that. And so there's a lot that gets in the way of basic business.
Yeah. If you let it.
If you let it, you gotta learn what it is, what you have to do, get it done right, but focus on selling, focus on taking care of your clients.
Yeah,
focus on building trust.
Absolutely.
I would argue that really as Hall said, the fundamental skill set that makes a broker successful is the same.
The same.
And I think it will always be the same. I think what changed for many agents is that when listings went online, they could no longer depend on being a gatekeeper to get them business. Right. And so that fundamentally changes the way you have to think about your role.
Of course.
Because you're not a person with a bunch of keys who holds the power of letting people know what's out there or not. Now everybody knows what's out there. And so your role switched, and I think we've all said this a million times, from being the gatekeeper of listing information to being the person who offers knowledge and expertise, which helps your client navigate the process more effectively.
Exactly. Knowledge is what's changed. It used to be information. When we started out, it was all about information because it wasn't anywhere else. Now information's everywhere.
Yeah.
So my next question was going to be, how do you define success in real estate? So knowledge for sure, right?
Well, yes, to be successful, I think you need knowledge.
Right.
The bottom line, are you making good money and making it the right way is a basic success. I think mostly to be a successful person and a successful agent, you need to focus on relationships. And if you do that, And also, what I'm finding today, and a lot of it changed with COVID for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, people, like I'll see
Defining
an
moments.
agent and I'll say, I haven't seen you in a long time. And they say, well, I didn't have any showings. I go, what do you mean you didn't have any showings? Come in the office, gain knowledge, go out and see every open house, talk to your fellow brokers.
Oh, that's kind of lost.
That's kind of lost.
That's kind of lost. I think there was many defining moments during COVID. Hall, you're correct, and I think it kind of played with people's mindset. I don't know why or how, but you're right. And my managers downtown tell us all the time, in the office, this is where the action is, guys. This is where you're going to hear people talk. This is where you're going to learn things. Yes, this is where you're going to learn stuff. Yeah. You said it before, Fred, there's change, and things are going to change all the time. Life changes. I live by this quote that I found probably 20 years ago, and I teach it as well in continuing ed. Karen Kaiser Clark says, life is change, growth is optional, so choose wisely. Okay? You don't choose wisely, you're shit out of luck.
You're luck.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so I kind of apply that to real estate all the time, and that's why I use it when I'm teaching all the time or when I'm mentoring, some of the younger agents. I'm like, look, we may not like the drama. We may not like a lot of things. Look at all the laws that have changed this year, just on the buy side, on the rental side, whatever. Instead of fighting it, instead of, stamping our feet like children, get up there and go with the change, understand it, grow with it, because if you choose the other option to do that,
you'll be left behind.
You'll be left behind.
Yeah, yeah.
So, these are the things that, we need to stress to the younger agents. And the reason I wanted this show so much is because you guys are inspirational, just being who you are and have been, and now being able to articulate to the folks you're working with, and now on my show, thank God. So we got a lot more to go. We're coming right back after these short messages. This is Talking New York Real Estate. We're just getting underway on a very busy morning, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I'm Brian Scott Cohen, one of the top loan originators in the country, and the #1 mortgage originator at Guaranteed Rate Affinity. Guaranteed Rate Affinity arguably has the most advanced tech in the industry. Our completely digital loan process makes it easy and efficient for homeowners, from a 15-minute pre-approval to the digital application and through closing. My team and I would love to help you get into the home of your dreams.
From residential and commercial closings to litigation, Romer DeBoss is your full-service real estate law firm. We blend big firm knowledge with boutique-level attention, delivering outcomes that exceed every expectation. Contact us at romerdeboss.com.
All right, we're back. So, Fred, what advice would you give to younger agents who are starting out their career today based on our legacies, based on what we know from the past, based on how, things have changed over the decades, at least here in New York City real estate, the only place I could relate to? What advice do you give to younger agents who come up to you and say, this seems like it's a really tough business. I don't know how to do this, or what about that? Give me your advice. What do you tell them?
First, I used to be a very discouraging interviewer when I was interviewing people all the time.
I get that. I totally get that.
I would say, if you think the business you're going into is represented by what's on $1 Million Listing, then you have another thing coming. None of us have the experience of making a few phone calls, going to an open house with fancy food, and collecting a check for $100,000. If that's what you're imagining your career is going to be like, it's not.
Yeah.
But if you're committed to the career, I actually put together for my agents in the old days a pyramid of goals. And at the bottom of the pyramid was always focusing on the ways in which you could expand your sphere of influence. You just have to get to know and interact with as many people as possible. If you are somebody...
Network.
Yeah. Networking, I think, is the key to beginning a career. it's also not a bad idea for the first year or two to team up with a more experienced
Always.
agent.
Yeah.
I think you
Which I didn't
learn-
have that option when I came into the business 23 years ago. Teams or partnerships really weren't
Yeah.
the thing. But today, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah,
Very helpful.
it's an opportunity.
100%.
And it hopefully gets you some experience while also providing you with at least an income baseline.
Yeah.
So you're not terrified about how you're going to pay the rent.
Yeah.
Because look, the first couple of years in this business tend to be really tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you can get that kind of help, but you've got to be thinking all the time about how you're going to generate the relationships that the next deal is going to come from. And, you know, I've never been a believer in Street Easy Pro or the other apps, which, in my opinion, deceitfully get you involved with a deal that you have no business being involved in, and frequently that you have no skills to manage once you become involved in it. Do it the old-fashioned way, which is expand your sphere and devote your time
Pay attention. Listen.
to getting to know the inventory. That's the other thing that I can't emphasize enough.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Paul, anything to add to that? I mean, I think what he said is correct.
When I started out, I was 27 years old. I was given an opportunity in a William Pitt office in Connecticut in
William
Westport.
Pitt,
I'd never been to Westport in my life. And here I am sitting at a desk with 12 other people. And I was very successful from day one, which was a surprise to me, a real shock, because I didn't think I was doing anything extraordinary. But I looked like a professional. I said, I don't know, but I'll find out. I understood fiduciary responsibility 100%, and I gained knowledge. I used to drive the streets at night to learn the town. And all of a sudden, they made me the selling manager. And people were saying, well, why? How did you do that? I said, it's just the bar is so low. You know, if I look like a professional, if I act like a professional, if I work in the interest of my clients,
correct.
that's all you have to do.
That is so correct.
And understand relationship, understand trust, and all that.
And
You're bound to be happy.
And you raised that bar, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
my version of driving the streets at night is that I spent all of my spare time in my early years in the business, when I didn't have something to do in the office, I just read the floor plan books.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so did I. Oh my God.
and
remember
at-
those floor plan books?
Well, I still
Yeah.
refer to them, but I'll tell you at this point.
But I used to go on a lot of open houses during the week too, just to go out there and learn
well,
the
yeah,
inventory.
because
so when I
then
had a
you
buyer,
see
I'd be
what's
able
for
to say, I saw
sale.
that apartment and it's a great one. Why
Right.
not?
And what I found was by studying the floor plan books, when somebody could say,
That
do
is
you
so fun.
know anything about this apartment? I'll say, yes, and that's the B line. The A line actually has slightly better exposures in that building.
Knowledge.
And people are blown away
Yeah, of course.
by that
Of course.
kind of knowledge. But anybody can acquire it.
But I can always...
They can, but they don't.
Yeah, I can always tell when somebody's not going to be a success, because
that's a good point.
They say, I don't want to go to open houses. What do you mean you don't want to go to open houses? This is where you learn the business. This is where you gain knowledge.
Yeah.
And so you just, you know, and the other thing I did, I worked 14-hour days. Everybody
Yeah.
else was going home and having 4-hour lunches. I had a sandwich at my desk. And people looked at me and said, I trust you.
That's right.
And I will always say to them, this is my
And
first day
they
in the business.
still say that, Hall,
Yeah,
after all
because-
these years.
Well, that's
You
the
have
point,
to
right?
They
gain
still
that.
say,
And-
I trust you.
Yeah,
Do you?
But if
But
you,
that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Both of you. But I've said for years, I worked harder and longer hours in real estate than I ever did in corporate America. 5 o'clock, you go home.
yeah,
Okay, and that's it.
yeah,
You don't start
we're
until
7
9
days
o'clock.
a week, 20
Yeah,
hours
there-
a day.
And you
There's-
had the weekends off, and,
There's
frolicking
no
in the Hamptons
end.
or whatever. Exactly.
There's no end. And that
24 hours a
actually,
day. Thanks to
it's-
these little things.
It's kind of fun. I mean, I do strongly believe that we all need phone vacation time. I strongly believe that you have to, for me, it used to be Sunday when I would just leave my phone in the other room.
Yeah.
And whatever happened, happened. But I felt like I didn't want to be that person who spent their entire life like this.
I still try to do that, especially at a certain time at night. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it over here, and then 10 minutes later, I'm running back to the phone to see if anybody texts me or email me.
But the truth of the matter is,
you're right in what you're saying.
and the
100%.
truth of the matter is, as I'm sure you know, that it's disruptive to your sleep.
Oh, 100%.
Well, and
So
also,
you need to leave it behind
When it's right over here on the
for
nightstand.
an hour or two before you go to bed. If you're going to read, you should read a book.
Yeah.
Remember them?
Remember
Totally
that?
agree.
But it just you have to take care of your personal life as well.
Oh, 100%.
And the good thing about our free time weekends or something, usually I get a lot of calls, but they're quick. Yes, no,
Yep.
I would do this. Thank
Yep.
you. Call
Yeah.
me back with the next question, and then I'm done. Not like a lawyer who's there's a stack of papers in front of me. So you can do both. And I think if you don't take care of your personal life, you have a failed life.
I couldn't agree with you more, because I think in order for us to be successful in this career, we have to be healthy.
Yes.
We have to be alert. We have to sleep. We have to pay attention.
That's right.
There's a time and place for everything. That phone's not going anywhere.
That's right.
Those emails are not going anywhere. Whatever. So
And we need to look happy.
Correct.
And
And we
be
need to
happy.
play the part
But
and-
you want to. It engenders a relationship.
because people
It's not like,
look at you.
I'm sick and tired of this whole thing. You
No.
just can't.
People want to look at you and feel like, look at him.
Yeah.
Look at her.
Yeah.
Wow. They got it going on. I'm going to trust them. I'm going to listen to what they say, because they seem to know what it's all about.
Yeah.
Hall, give me, your opinion on the current state of the New York City real estate market. Now, post-COVID, or even a little bit before, we've had our ups and downs. We've had our ebbs and flows, whatever you want to call it. The market, cooperates. It doesn't cooperate. We've seen a lot of cash deals. We've seen a lot of big number deals. In fact, one of our agents here just did a huge deal. She's incredible anyway. I think record-breaking on the Upper West Side or in New York City.
Yes.
But in general, the market has not really been great.
It has not.
What is your opinion on,
It's been
on what's
difficult.
happening?
It's been a difficult market, you
Yeah.
know. And what I think is the fundamental change that's the most important is our culture was always buy real estate and it'll go up in value next year.
Mm.
The best investment you can make. And that is no longer true.
No.
I mean, it's true for certain properties,
Yeah.
but across the board, in today's market, I've never known a more price-sensitive market.
Mm-hmm.
Buyers want to know exactly what the seller paid for it, and they don't want to pay them too much more than that because they've lost that belief
Yeah.
that it's going to continue to gain value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very fundamental shift in buyers' mentalities.
The other thing, too, on
And
the buyer's side is
Okay.
the monthlies. If you've looked at the real estate taxes in this town, if you're buying condo, if you're looking at the maintenance or common charges, I mean, I'm seeing in the last 2 years double-digit increases year to year
Oh, yeah.
in maintenance.
Yeah, because
Double
life
digit.
is getting more expensive. It just is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You go to the. I always say and laugh because I walk everywhere. It costs me $50 to walk home. Just somehow I'm $50 poor, and I get there.
This is very true.
This is really.
You stop in the little bodega, it's like maybe $70
I
for
know.
it.
I know. You go buy toothpaste and it's $50.
It's unbelievable. Well, what is your opinion, Fred?
I think that we have buyers markets, we have sellers markets.
Yeah.
I like to call this market a broker's market
Thank you.
because I feel like you almost always these days have two reluctant parties. the seller feels that they ought to get more because a lot of the time they paid more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The buyer feels like they ought to pay less because there's no guarantee, as Hall said, about the future of their investment. And also, unless you're literally buying an apartment in which the renovation was completed 2 weeks ago, people are going to do work.
Yeah.
And there is no question but that the change since COVID in what it costs to do renovation has been incredibly dramatic. I have a very close friend who's an architect, and she told me, you know, in the old days, she told me, this is pre-COVID, like say 2015, you could do a decent renovation, not a high end, but a decent renovation, a kind of a 2-bedroom between Columbus and Amsterdam kind of renovation for $400 a foot. Now she says you can't do any kind of renovation for less than $700 a foot.
Right. That's right.
That's incredibly significant, and buyers know that.
Yeah.
That's right.
I just had one of my listings redo floors and paint in the studio, and the quote we got back was $9,995.
Wow.
So 10 grand.
10 grand
To do floors and paint in a studio.
400 square foot studio.
Yeah.
We did it. We had to.
Because
Yeah.
you do it.
We had to because she wants to sell it, and it was a mess. The tenant, destroyed it.
That's
Right.
something that sellers often don't focus on, and I try to, in certain situations, inform them or tell them they should think about it. A buyer looks at what they're paying the seller, but the buyer's also looking at what it's going to cost them
Absolutely.
to renovate it.
Absolutely.
So it may be $1 million, but to the seller, but it's going to cost them another $500,000 to do what they need to do.
And not only is it going to cost them that money, and this is something I'm reminding sellers of all the time, it costs them the money while they're carrying 2 residences because they have to live somewhere else while they're doing the renovation.
Yeah.
So it's time, effort, and the cost of the
huge.
money that you're putting into the new place while you can't live there.
Yeah. And if sellers don't understand that,
No.
don't understand the basics, and if we don't help them understand
Right.
it, it's a real
They often
problem.
choose not to understand that.
They do. But you know what I find is, we go to listing presentations and we bring all the facts.
Yeah.
You hear the last 10 apartments just like yours that sold, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we have facts and we leave them for them. And the seller says, well, I want $1 million more or whatever, more. And I have found it very effective to say to the seller, may I ask you what you're basing that on?
Mm-hmm.
Frequently, they don't answer you, but they answer in their head because they've just seen a bunch of facts and they're saying, because my grandmother told me so.
Right, exactly.
So it's an interesting
You know,
dynamic.
there is this wonderful, and you and I have talked about this before, there's actually a psychological term for it, which was coined by these 2 Israeli psychologists who were working with the military, one of them being Daniel Kahneman, who wrote the book Thinking Fast and Slow, which has been hugely influential. But the term is the endowment effect. And the endowment effect is the effect by which you endow the thing you own with excessive value while minimizing the value of what you own.
That's right.
And it's a documented psychological occurrence.
Sure.
Let's talk about co-ops.
Oh,
Are they-
Lord, must we?
Must we? Are they? I'm asking this question because I really want you guys your opinions. Are they still a good buy? Because we've seen a little appreciation over the last 10 years. Is it time to change? How will it change? Can it change? What is going on with the co-op
Well, first of all, I
marketplace
think
right
they
now?
are good buys out there. Definitely has a buyer market aspect to it. But I think what co-ops need to, first of all, personally, I've never known any building that went from co-op, except one, from a co-op to a condo.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
I don't
and
even
it was
know one.
it was a building like I live in, a 4-unit former townhouse.
Yeah.
And they changed. That's the
I
only one
think
I've
the
ever
tax
heard of.
implications
It's huge.
are overwhelming.
So they are
Yeah.
the majority of the market still, even though it's lower than it used to be because of the new condos. But co-ops, what co-ops need to do if they care about the value of their shares, et cetera, is to first, every co-op should look for cooperation because you're going to own this piece with each other.
Correct.
You're going to be partners.
Which is the major difference.
And the major difference. And that's why cooperation, every co-op should look for that.
Yeah.
And financial responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's it. But, a lot of them look for a hell of a lot more than that. I think a lot of people, and I'm not one of them, but who want to live in a ghetto. Maybe it's a golden ghetto, but they want to live with people like themselves. And in financial, et cetera. And
Isn't that well said
It's-
when it comes to that? 100%.
Yeah.
But is that also a problem?
It is a problem because, it can violate fair housing laws. It also restricts the market for your apartment in the building, et cetera. And, I think co-ops need to loosen up and look for financial responsibility, look for cooperation, and cool it with all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And they have to be responsive. I love that city law that didn't pass, but where they were saying they were going to have a rule. This is, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, where the city council said, you have to, when you submit an offer, they have to respond to you within X number of days.
when you submit a package.
Right.
Package,
Once you
yeah.
submit a package, you only have
Correct.
a number of days to
Yeah.
do it. And if
They break
you
that
are
rule all the time.
rejected, it must be in writing why.
Well, I loved that
I
too.
love that.
It's
But
never
it got
going to
shot down.
happen.
I was going to say, didn't we all love that? But
Yeah.
what happened to it?
Yeah,
Right?
well, I think the
got squelched.
Association
That
of
would
New
change our
York
business.
Cooperatives
Yeah.
just came out so forcefully
Yeah.
against it. And, I think that one thing I would just as an addendum to what Hall said is boards actually, I believe by and large, don't know that they are subject to fair housing laws. But no, I'm serious. They believe
I
We're
believe
trained
it.
every
they
year. No one's training
believe
them.
that they're a private corporation.
Well, they do.
And I personally have pressed the management division of the real estate board for decades now
Decades.
to institute. Hall and I even had a meeting with them together to institute board training
Yeah.
in which they tell the boards a few things that they really need to know. But the other thing I would just add to what Hall said is co-ops are going to remain co-ops because the tax implications of changing are too complicated. And also, a lot of people like it because they like the golden ghetto. Right.
Well, that's the thing.
But if you want to live in a beautiful pre-war building on Park Avenue or one of the side streets or Fifth or Central Park West or West End, you're ending up in a co-op.
Yeah.
It is.
It's that simple.
They should just
It
become
is-
less onerous.
Yes.
Correct.
It's horrible. I mean,
Yeah.
they treat they treat the applicant who they eventually approve like garbage.
Yeah.
And then they accept them into the building. I mean, it's so.
I
just so
I had
rude.
an experience just
It's rude.
this week
rude.
in which a board came back to somebody who was applying with a guarantor.
Ugh.
Because they knew, and
In a co-op?
the building had indicated they were okay with guarantors.
Okay.
But they came back and said, in addition to the guarantor, we want 4 years of maintenance in escrow.
4 years.
4 years. Seriously?
Yeah. No, I'm aware of that deal.
It's unbelievable. Anyway, we have to take another quick break. No one's going anywhere. We will be right back after these messages. Don't go away.
Hi, I'm Dylan Pachulik, CEO of XL Real Property Management, New York's most trusted name in luxury property management since 2012. We specialize in managing individual apartments, townhouses, and rental buildings held by absentee owners. We maintain our properties with the highest standards of quality and service so that owners can choose a hassle-free approach to real estate investing. Rented or owner-occupied, we handle it all. For more information, contact us at xl-rpm.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back with our last block. So we're going to get to learn about these two in a few minutes, but a couple of more questions. Hall, what do you think about the consolidation that is happening these days in our industry with brokerages? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it neutral? I mean,
it's not my cup of tea, I can tell you.
It's not mine either,
Yeah.
but what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that it really makes sense for our industry as we know it here in New York City real estate?
And especially the latest consolidation, it's getting corporate. This is not a corporate business.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is
that's
a
my
personal business.
Mm-hmm.
You and in a huge company like they're creating, there's no interaction with anybody of any knowledge,
Yeah.
and the focus isn't on that. You know, I'm sure that some companies have never even mentioned the word fiduciary responsibility to their agents. It's all about the commission, and the money. But again, it is about the money. But they make less money by doing that.
Correct.
You know, every successful broker I've ever worked with, and I'm sure it's true for you, Fred, as well, is that they get all of their business from their past business. The lawyer, you know, refers them because they were so impressed. The seller tells all the friends, you have to use Vince to, you know, to do something. You make so much more money by doing it right.
Correct. And oftentimes I really don't understand because you've mentioned that words fiduciary responsibility several times, and even before our show. You are but you're so correct. And it's the biggest missing thing or element in I believe in a lot of companies in our industry. Fred, what do you think about the whole consolidation of companies and in the industry? Do you think brokerages, better asked, do you think brokerages are going to survive with this kind of thing over the next 10 years? Or where do you think we're going to be in 10 years?
I mean, it's such an interesting question for me because I'm the guy who sold my company to a giant company and then stuck around for the length of my contract and then left.
It must have been tough times.
And so
and he's here now.
I was about to say, so I'm kind of the poster boy in a lot of ways for the benefits of a privately held company in which you have personal interaction. As I've said from day one, when I was thinking about what my next steps were, I really didn't have, in my opinion, alternatives. There was only one company which was independent and which had stood all these years for the same values that Warburg, my company, had stood for.
Yeah.
So it's not like I was even struggling with my choice.
Yeah.
There really was no choice. So, you know what I do think, Vince? I think we're in a marketplace in which you do need some scale to survive.
Yeah.
So I think the really small brokerages, I don't know how long they can survive, which I think is a heartbreaker in a lot of ways because I think they've added so much character to the business in our city.
Yeah.
But I think, do I think it's a good thing? I think exactly the way both of you have given your opinions about the experience of working in a corporate environment. what I can say is it's not for me. I can't tell other people that it's the wrong thing for them, but I can say it's not for me
And
because the personal interaction,
It doesn't fit.
both the personal interaction that you have on the outside with your clients, you want it on the inside too.
Yeah.
I said off air before we started the show, I started in my early career out of college in corporate America. And I came, to work in real estate. And I don't want to feel like I'm working in corporate again. I don't want to feel like I'm working for not even a brand. I'm working for, people who are only concerned about the bottom line or any of that stuff. And here, I give this guy over here a lot of credit.
I'd be fired if I worked for a public company a million times.
I wouldn't. I don't ever want to go back to that. That's why I love. And he said it perfectly, and it's all because of him. Yeah. We're here because of the environment. We're here because of the lack of corporate. We're here because of the family aspect of, relationship-driven business, which is what we're all about. Because other than that, we lose focus, I believe, as you both have said through the conversation here today. You lose focus on who you're servicing, what your fiduciary responsibility is, who your clients are, how they need to not only trust you, but have credibility in you because you are the expert. You know what you're talking about. They feel that. They see that when they're with you. The best thing, that the greatest feeling is when I'm out with a buyer or even talking to a seller and they kind of say, all right, Vince, I'm going to go with that because I believe what you're saying is correct or I trust you. These other people running around this town, and believe me, what did I say, 50,000 agents in this town? I mean, really? What do they know? What are they bringing to the table?
Less than 20% of them make any money.
And like the Hollywood rule, less than 20% of them are doing anything and making any kind of money.
One part of that question, if I may, I want to add to. I'm frequently asked more and more, do you think brokerage will survive? Do you think brokers have a future? And this is what I think. I mean, in a non-nuanced market, and I can give Fresno, California as an example.
Phoenix, Arizona.
All of it is new development. All of it. It's all new development houses.
Yeah.
And every one of these developments has a chateau and a Tuscany and an igloo, whatever they have.
Yeah, whatever.
And there's no need for knowledge.
Yeah.
There's no need. And I don't think a broker, people like somebody to negotiate for them, et cetera, but that's not a lot of reason to pay a commission. But in nuanced markets, we're probably the most nuanced market, maybe in the world. I don't know that, but certainly in this country. Mm-hmm. And they can't do it. And part of it is the co-op stuff. You need knowledge and you need help to buy real estate or sell real estate in New York.
I had a conversation with somebody at the New York City Real Estate Expo 2 weeks ago, right? With some guy who came up to me on stage and blah, 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 talking. He's from Costa Rica, whatever. Yesterday, my phone rang, and it was him. And he said, listen, I want to talk to you about some business opportunities. I'm like, okay. Long story short, he said, I was very impressed with you when I was talking to you at the expo, blah, blah. You seem like you're trustworthy. I mean, all of your words, okay? You seem like you're credible. You seem like you know what you're talking about. We may have an opportunity to work together. You find me some buyers. I'm going to send you all the information. You send them down to Costa Rica to buy, blah, blah, blah. And I did this years ago with an agent in Tulum. And you get a big commission. And I'm like, okay, am I going to, spin my wheels, versus my local market? No, but am I going to entertain that and think, all right, maybe this guy's onto something. Yeah. Maybe this guy has something that we can share, our expertise or our credibility with each other. Why not? So we give it a shot. But if I were just a fly-by-night or somebody who didn't answer the questions that he was asking me, when I think back on the very direct questions he was asking last week or the week before, and I'm like, where's he going with all this, right? Little did I know he was going home and forming a plan. Okay, that works for me.
You have influence.
Well, hopefully. Who were some of the biggest influences or mentors in your early career that made you what I call a legend today in New York City real estate?
I don't understand that legend thing.
I don't either, but you are one. You are one.
I had a few very good mentors. I mean, first of all, Peter Healy, who was my boss at William Pitt for a year and a half, but he taught me so much about the business, and I knew nothing. And we're still in touch today.
Yeah.
And I was only in that firm for a year and a half before I came to the city. Peter Marr, Neil Gallagher, Mac Parker, and all of them are mentors, and sometimes you learn what not to do with them.
Absolutely.
Which is a very strong lesson to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
Very important. And of course, Roger Tuckerman gave me the opportunity to be where I am today. I came to Brown Harris, and there were, first at Douglas Elliman. I was there for I think just 2 years, and he was there, and he was in charge, and he was in charge of the management company, and it was all one. And I just came there and said, I've just been a broker in Beverly Hills for the last 5 years, and I want to be in New York. How can I help? And he allowed me to help. He gave me, I was the first person who taught the brokers computers. And he gave me so many opportunities because he let me do what I was doing well. And that went on for years. And so he was a great mentor in that sense. But they're wonderful people in this business. I'll never forget Barbara Cardozo. She was, in a way. I mean, she was a big, huge broker, and she was wonderful. And when I was in my first 6 months or year at Douglas Elliman, she called me into her office, and she goes, I think you're okay, but there's one lesson you got to learn. And I went, yes. I'm trembling. I'm 20-something years old. And she says, you got to learn how to spell the word no. And, it helped me. It really did help me. And not know in a bad way, but to, be able to not just placate. But so she taught me many great lessons like that. Many of the agents have been my mentors. I mean, we've had such a privilege, Fred and I, of working with the best in the business.
In order to recognize those mentors or, instrumental people in your career, and I'm sure Fred will agree, you have to be open to it.
You do.
And you have to be able to take it in and understand, mentoring is not lecturing. Mentoring is helping you formulate who you need to be,
and
who you want to be and who you need to be, and accept it.
And, and accept what you don't know.
You can't be defensive because it's only going to block whatever you're doing.
Because you've got to come into it with the acceptance that you don't know anything. And the only way you're going to learn stuff is by listening to people who know more than you do.
Who are some of your mentors or biggest influences in your early career?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting question for me. I learned an enormous amount from a woman with whom I did not end up on good terms. And she was, I was thinking when Hall mentioned Barbara Cardozo, there was a generation of kind of killer brokers. They were all women.
Yeah.
And Lila Stone was another.
Oh, there's a name. I remember that name.
Oh, my God.
And the one from whom I learned an enormous amount, I have to say, was named Marilyn Herskovitz.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And, as I said, Marilyn and I, unfortunately, did not end up on good terms.
But you learned a lot from her.
But I learned a lot from her. And then the co-president of, I worked for many years as a sales director at a company called Albert Ashforth.
Oh, yeah.
And the president, there were co-presidents, but the one with whom I dealt was a man named Darrell Harvey. And I learned an enormous amount from him, especially about how to do the right thing in business all the time, because he really modeled that in everything he did. He was a person of such intelligence and such integrity. And then I would say the third one at Ashforth was a senior broker who was not one of those women, named Evelyn Corsi.
Oh, yeah.
And she was an extraordinary agent, but also really a model for how to stay calm, and how to ride it through while keeping your dignity and the dignity of the other people in the transaction intact. And then, as time went on, I learned so much from my agents.
Oh, yeah.
So much.
You do. If you again, as I said before, if you open yourself up and you're willing to, whether it's agents or other directors or other executives, you take it all in. Let me ask you guys, last question. So looking back on your career, is there anything that you would do differently? And you both have legacy and legendary, experiences. And most people, when I mention either one of your names, are like, oh, yeah. What do you want your legacy to be as you continue, more importantly, as you continue to work in the field with all the love and all the passion and all the dedication that you've always had, and both of you have demonstrated that today? What do you want your legacy to be when you finally say at some point, okay, I'm ready to go put my toes in the sand at the beach and call it a day?
Well, first of all, you just hope to be remembered.
Right. Right.
How do you spell your name? And, I hope that my legacy will be something about helping Brown Harris grow to where we are today. And that's it. I hope to be remembered because hopefully I've been memorable to some of these people.
I love that word, memorable, and your legacy about Brown Harris is definitely there because, in my opinion, you are Brown Harris. And that is what it is. And I've known that for all the 23 plus years I'm in the business. What do you want your legacy to be, Fred? I mean, again, you've been around a long time. You've run companies. You've merged companies. You're now back here at Brown Harris, working on the agent side. What do you want people to remember when they hear Fred Peters?
I still hear from agents at what was my company. I still get calls about deals.
Yeah.
And I think really my legacy, I hope, is that people will remember me as somebody who helped them get from A to B in their career.
I hope
that's
too.
Really, that's all I hope for, is that, and even once they don't remember me, I hope that the way of doing business that I think Hall and I have both tried to embody continues to live on in some small part because of what we did.
My God, absolutely, yes. And because of the way the industry has changed through the years, your existence, your presence still, brings us back, at least me, back to those early days of real estate, the early days of the real estate industry, because you watch leaders like you guys and say, they did it, they had something going on, look what they built, look what they've created. Look what their influence is still doing. And as I said earlier in the show, excuse me, I talk about, at least once in the show every week, about being memorable, okay? If you can't figure out in your lifetime, in your career, in your personal life, how to be memorable, how to touch somebody every day and leave something behind, even if you only meet that person once. And even if you meet them, a smile. Something that says, hey, I remember Vince, or hey, I'm going to remember Vince. It behooves all of us, especially in the greatest people business in the world, real estate, and in New York City. If you can't figure out how to be memorable, you ain't got it going on, guys. Ain't got it going on. And you're not going to. It's got to be real.
I was about to say that's the most.
You have to love real estate.
Oh, my God.
I've heard a few people say, I never want to see another apartment. I'm like,
oh, no.
Goodbye.
Right. Find another career.
You gotta go.
Find another career.
You got to not only love real estate, but you got to love people. Anyway, we're out of time. I'm coming right back with my final moments right after this. Don't go anywhere.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Hey, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you hear a lot about how crucial it is to have the right partners in this industry. At Roadway, we don't just move your clients, we give them an experience they'll love. Specialized services to our white glove treatment, it's all about making sure your clients feel taken care of every step of the way. And if you're looking for a rewarding referral program, reach out to me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my final thoughts. At the end of the day, the legends of New York City real estate are more than just names on record-breaking deals or companies. They are the storytellers, the mentors, the visionaries who built the foundation we all stand on. Their influence reminds us that real estate isn't the only about property, rather. It's about people and relationships and trust earned over time. As our market evolves, it is up to us to carry the legacy forward, to lead with integrity, to innovate with purpose, to inspire the next generation to get even better. Because the future legends of New York real estate are being made right now, and they're learning from the best. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guests for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, or Substack at Vince Rocco. And John Maxwell says, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thanks for spending a part of your day with us. I am so grateful. Keep thinking the good thoughts, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.